Come on.
Thank you.
Of course. So Barb, before we begin the session, what would you like people to know about you?
So, beyond my name that you already know, bar like a bar where we're meeting later, and coming from Israel, I also started my career in software engineering, so I can relate to quite a lot of you. And over the time of my career, 14 years in technology field, I learned that what's the most important for us to be able to deliver value to our customers is how we work together. So I really hope that what we talk about today will be useful for you. And I'm excited to also get your feedback on that later on. So feel free to talk to me.
I'm excited as well. Stage is yours.
Thank you. So, you know, we're having a conference today, and it's going to be very fun in the evening, and also, I hope, true in the day. And I wanted to start with a very positive topic, extreme crisis. So what can we actually learn from extreme crisis about Agile? And before we talk about crisis, I actually want to start with this picture. And this picture, you can see very smiley faces. You can see also suited up. It was because that was taken in 2014, October 2014, in a business school in Germany called ESMT. And the people here became my friends over the years. We had a very safe environment at the time because it was a learning environment. It was a university. And I didn't know at the time that they're going to become that close friends of mine. We're friends until today. And beyond being younger and smiley and feeling safe with each other, I can also say that that's what I wrote that day on my Facebook page. I wrote, "Make selfies, not war." And the reason for that is that when I came to ESMT in 2014, I knew that I'm from Israel. And I had that typical belief of many Israelis that everyone hates me because of where I'm from, because I'm Jewish, because I'm from Israel, and I need to be afraid of everyone that looks different, everyone that comes from a different background. And the people that you can see here, one of them is from Ukraine, the second one is from Lebanon, and the third one is from Iran. It's a bit ironic, because I wrote in 2014, in October, that we don't want to have wars. But now, October 2023, I don't need to tell you. And it's a bit sad that we see so much destruction in our world right now. And we can focus on the things that we cannot control, which is what do we bring to the workplace? What beliefs do we have about the people that we are working with? Do I need to be afraid of you? Do you need to be afraid of me? We cannot control necessarily what's happening to people. We cannot control how much destruction, and it feels also quite far away because we're sitting here in Frankfurt, right? But what can we learn from that? Because this is not the only crisis that is happening in our world right now. And if we just step back, the microphone is... if we just take a step back and we think about all the different situations that are going on in our world right now, each one of you is being affected by one or more crises. Each one of you. And let me just go about a few, right? So we all had the pandemic. Some of you were all alone for 2 years. Some of you are still probably struggling with this idea of working from home. Some of you actually don't have an extra space to work at home and don't even have your all set up, even though we're 2 years working from home, right? Some of you, like, yeah, I never want to go back to an office. It's so much nicer. We also have a financial situation going on right now. In some countries, in most countries. We have inflation. We have, in Germany, increasing in cost. We have increase of rent. We don't have housing. Because of inflation, our money can buy us less. And that's an economical situation that is not impacting just us as individuals, but it's also impacting clients. Because our clients are not... Should I switch? Okay, should I take that off? Okay. So even our clients are being impacted by this, right? Because we are... It's a bit too confusing to have two microphones, I'm sorry. I'll just take it then. That's all right. Sorry about that. I knew, like, last week I was in a different conference, and I was having this microphone because I was wearing a dress, and I always said I look a bit like Madonna when I do that. So. We will just feel uncomfortable for a moment, and we'll be fine. Thank you so much. Experts. Woo! Okay, so back to the topic. Pandemic, some of us are being affected by it. Economical situation. Even if we can handle that, because even though with the inflation we are having hopefully a decent salary, our clients are struggling with that financial situation as well, and we can see that in the organization. We are all in consulting here. So our clients cannot hire us in the same way that they did before. They need to be very clear about the business case, and in their organization, they see that they need to be able to deliver more with way less people. So they are also dealing with quite a lot of crisis financially. And we're also talking about climate change, so they need to invest, and we need to invest even more resources into things around the sustainability, and also the future of work. People that come to the organization have different expectations of the organization. We need to invest more to get people to work in the organization. We need to invest more to keep people from leaving, and we also don't find them. Some industries you cannot hire. You can just not find the people that want to work in those professions. And all of that creates a lot of crises that also bring us to what we do, which is the digital future. So we are there to support that progress. We are there to support building the technology of tomorrow, to bring artificial intelligence, to bring the digitalization, new products, software, innovation. And we are in the middle of all of that. So even though we are not dealing with a war, necessarily, we have a war, it's somewhere away from us right now, but we are dealing with crises every day. Because when we go to the organization, they are dealing with crises every day. They have a lot of change. They have a lot of information that they don't necessarily know what's true, what's not, what we should listen to. They need to be able to make decisions faster than before. And we like to say that the only constant in life is change. So if we cannot control the change that is happening to us, we cannot control what people are bringing to work. We cannot control assumptions, beliefs. We cannot control what's happening in different geographies. We cannot control the financial situation. We cannot control what's going on with our clients. What can we control? We can control our response. We can control ourselves. So this is what I want to talk about today. What can we control? And what can we do? Because usually when we talk about response, when it comes to change, when it comes to extreme crisis, the most common response is fear. And in fear, we have 4 common responses. One is do nothing. I'm just going to wait here, let things happen to me, and hopefully it will get better. Maybe, who knows. Or I'm going to run away. I'm going to just quit the organization, and I'm going to find a different place that will have exactly the same situation. I'm going to fight back, so I'm going to make it so hard for you to change anything, because if you keep it the same, I will not suffer anymore, I will not be afraid. Or I will just follow, but then when I just follow, I don't actually buy in, so I'm constantly having this resistance inside of me. And I want to show you that there is a different way to do that. Yes, we have the fear, and instead of saying, it doesn't exist, I'm not afraid, I just go with change, woo! Every time that there is a crisis, I will just go with it, woo! No, I want us to do one thing, and if you forget everything that I'm talking about today, I want you to remember this one thing. We want to be intentional. Be intentional. And the things that I'm going to talk about today of what I learned from the war to apply in organizations during the time of change, all those things are about one thing. How can we become intentional? And to each one of them, each one of you can contribute. So, very actionable. I like practical things. Okay, so let's go to topic. So what can we learn from the extreme? We're going to answer 3 questions today. The first one is, what do we need to know? The second is, how do we decide? And the third is, how can we support? And the reason that we focus on those 3 questions is because we have imbalance of information. So what do we actually need to know? If we don't know what's going on, we cannot make decisions, and we cannot support, right? Then, once I have the information, how can we decide? Who needs to decide? And we are in an environment that we talk about agility, right? We don't want only one person to decide. We want many people to be able to decide. And then how can we support? Because we're talking about change. We need to remember that we are, in the end of the day, human beings. If it was the artificial intelligence that had to decide, that's different. But, we are humans. So let's start with the first. Information. What do we need to know? And during crisis situation, we have flood of information overwhelming us. And that happens whether we are in a war or we are in an organization going through a transition. In the 7th of October, I woke up to 500 messages on my phone telling me what's going on. I could not necessarily get in touch with my family. I could not get in touch with my friends. I knew that many people got recruited to the military. I had no idea what was going on. Basically, my partner was coming like, wake up! And I didn't even know what was going on. I thought, Israel, again, some rockets, basically the Iron Dome will take care of that. It felt like a common, normal thing. I did not know what was true. And also when I read the news of what was going on in Gaza, in Israel, I could not really tell. I thought someone is joking on me, that there is going to be someone jumping from behind telling me, surprise, that was a joke. And it was so much information, so many things on Facebook, on WhatsApp. I had an information overload. And a lot of it was misinformation. I couldn't tell what was right, what was wrong. And also inconsistent information. Like I got information on some people that are in the military, some people that were not in the military. I got information about people that I know that were part of the event. And I couldn't really tell if that was correct or not. I couldn't verify the information. And we have that in organizations as well. When we are working in an organization, we many times will get a lot of different information from different people. One person will tell you, we have a new team structure. Oh, no, we actually don't do that. Okay? We are going to start having retrospectives every second week. No, it's okay. It's only optional. We're going to create a new role. It's going to be called product owners. They're making all of the decisions. No, by the way, this product manager is going to make all the decisions instead. Right? And we don't know. We hear information every second day. No, this is the priority. You need to finish all of this by the end of the quarter. Yeah, it can be delayed. So you don't know if you're supposed to get stressed out, if you're supposed to start doing something, or you're supposed to wait until someone changes their mind. So what do we do? Then in October, what we had was a concept that we called the war room. In Israel, we created a WhatsApp group that was basically meant to keep people informed of what was going on. And the reason for that is that when I woke up in Berlin, I could not tell what was true, what was not. So I reached out to other Israelis that I know on a Facebook group that we have. And then they said, well, everyone is in the same situation. So the majority of the group, to create one place of information, is better than everyone trying to guess for themselves and not having one place of truth. So let's look through all of the different resources that we have and decide on one point of truth, one space that all the information is there, and we can follow this one place. And every time that we have someone come in with questions, we send them to this one place. So we created that WhatsApp group that was called the War Room. We call it Hamal. And within the Hamal, we had one channel that was about information, about what is going on. And every time that a question came up, we added another channel to discuss about this one question. It started with what was going on, what's the situation, facts. In October 7, what happened, in what time, to what amount of people? What do we have that is verified already? What do we have that is speculation? Do we know what the government is doing? Do we know what Hamas is doing? Do we know what IDF is doing? Do we know who are in the list? Do we know who is confirmed? Who did we reach out to? All of this information. What information can we share? Or what information is something that we were told by our government? And then we learned other things that are relevant. In Berlin, for example, people could not fly back home. So they need to know, okay, what airport is actually working? What flights can they take? Are there any rescue flights? And if I'm staying now in Berlin and I didn't plan to, where can I find housing? Where can I find a support system? If someone has been affected because their family has lost someone or because of the hostages, then who can I contact to get that type of support? So we had all of that information in one group. And we started locally. So there was one group in Israel, one group in Berlin. And then we expanded it globally. Based on the impact, someone told us in the group, hey, I am living actually in London. I want to have the same group in London. So we had a conversation of, okay, what's the same? Create a group in London. And they used exactly the same format that we were using in Berlin to create another group in London that was following the same structure, having some of the same information, but also having information that was specific for London or specific for Switzerland. And we focus on direct support in every channel, which means that the information that was growing in that specific channel was directly related to questions that came up to the channel. Right? It was not randomly, I put as much information as possible to make it as full as possible, because otherwise you can use any other magazine, because you kind of get lost in the information, too much information. We kept it very specific to the questions that came to the channel, and questions that were not verified, that did not have information, then we kept out of the channel. And we referred people to other places. And we create dedicated places for discussion, forums and channels that were for having discussions on the topic to allow people to be heard. And how does it actually translate into the workplace? Because many organizations have the same during the time of change. Usually what we do is we have some executive coming in front of everyone telling you, okay, welcome everyone. We are doing a transformation now. From today to tomorrow, we are going to implement SAFe. And now the entire organization is going to be in a scaled agile approach. Those are the new roles. This is the new concept. You need to follow those graphs and enjoy, right? And then you have a lot of different questions that people have, and they don't know where to find this information. What can we do then? Right? Because we don't want to stop there. We don't want to be like, hey, enjoy. We want to know, where do I find the information about the new structure, the new workflows, the new processes, what stays the same, and what's going to change? And if I'm getting a new role, what does it mean to me as an individual? What does it mean for my team? So you want to have a starting team that will, or department level, that will have one place of information. And you can use an intranet for that. I will recommend don't use slides for that. Use some Confluence page. Use something that is dynamic. You can also make videos in advance. You can use artificial intelligence, GPT, to generate content. You can use Microsoft Copilot to find content. Like, there are different tools that we can use. But what's important is that you start on a team level or a department level, and you create a place for people to read the initial information, which is what is changing, what stays the same, what processes are we touching, what type of roles, responsibilities, and so on. And then, based on the questions that people are bringing, you're updating that channel in a central way. And this is your local one place of truth. And from that local one place of truth, you ask yourself, where is it in the organization that I need to expand? And if you're expanding now from one office to another, like for example, we have the office in Germany, but we also have the office in South Africa. And what's relevant in South Africa is not what's relevant in Germany. Maybe because of language, maybe because of the way that they work with the clients, maybe because they have a completely different focus. It can be, right? So what do they need to know? Maybe in Germany, all the content needs to be in German, and in South Africa, everything needs to be in English. Or maybe it's about how do I get my German classes? It's only relevant if I'm sitting in South Africa. So you make the information in one place. It looks the same, so it's easy to orient, but also includes relevant questions that are local in the space that you're at. And you use one intranet for that, one Confluence space for that, so everyone knows where to go. And it's focusing on direct support in the same way that we did with the WhatsApp channel, because the content is emerging from the questions of others, and it creates a space for discussion. Yeah. So we will have some time for questions and answers as well. So do write your questions, and I will love to answer that and provide you more information on that. And we did build that with a few clients when we were doing transformations. And that's super useful because you cannot answer to people as fast on your own. So you cannot be like, hey, everyone come to me with questions. When you have 50 people, okay, but when you have thousands of people, then you need to be able to have a place that makes it easier for them to get the answer before they come to you. Yeah. Going to the next one. Now we have the information. We're all clear on everything that is happening. We know what's going on. How do we decide? Right? Because imagine now that the people in London that are maintaining my WhatsApp group need to wait on Germany to decide on anything that they're changing in the WhatsApp group. Or people in South Africa need to wait for people in Germany to decide. How many times we have that in organizations? We need to wait on one person, we need to wait on one team to make all of the decisions. And as much as it is useful in certain situations, because we want to have a shared architecture, we want to have some standards for design, we want people to follow similar patterns of things, we want them to make the same decisions on how we want to work together. Maybe we have a scaled environment, so we need to be able to make decisions together. So we're having some sort of a portfolio team and a program team, and all those people are making all of the decisions for us. But it is a kind of a double-edged sword, because especially when you're in a crisis, like for example, you have a war situation, I really want to see if someone can wait a week to make a decision. Sometimes not even a day. So when we had situations of people not being able to fly home and they don't have a place to sleep because they booked the hotel until a certain time and now the hotel prices escalated because suddenly you have thousands of people not being able to fly. Do you really want to wait a week now to tell them where they're supposed to stay? Maybe not. Right? So we also don't want that in organizations. We don't want people to have to wait so long. So the thing is that the effectiveness of your decision-making depends on how fast you can make those decisions. And because of the change, if you want to make a decision and you want everyone to be aligned, if you're making it central, you're having the issue of, yes, everyone has one decision, but not everyone is buying in and aligned to it. And if you make it decentral, then you have the challenge of, well, is that the same decision across everyone? So how do you bring that together? It brings the question, do everyone needs to decide the same? Does it really matter all the time? When it does matter, yes, but does it always matter? If I am deciding where people are going to stay in an hotel in London or in Berlin, it doesn't matter if I know hotels in Berlin if I'm in London. It's also many times doesn't matter what priorities a team has as long as they know what is the priority for the program. So I don't need the program to approve everything that the team is doing as long as we know that the higher level principles are the same. And this is where we talk about trust. So we delegated, we trusted. We said, you know, this is the structure that we would like to have. This is what's important for us to have. Those are the principles that we operate. Our WhatsApp groups are welcoming Israeli people right now. We don't care what religion those Israelis are. So we do have people from Muslim religion as well in that group, because it is about Israelis, so to be clear. And we said we want that to be a space for Israelis, and Israelis are welcome. And we want that to be safe, so we need to have some sort of a verification that the person is really Israeli when they are joining the group. And we want to make sure that this place has all the information we need, and that's it. And the rest we delegate. So if I choose to manage that specific group and I'm sitting in Berlin, or I'm sitting in London, or I'm sitting in Switzerland, I create the right space based on the needs of my community. And I don't have to coordinate those decisions with anyone else. So when we talk about it about teams, and we think, okay, so what teams then need to do in order to decide? So what I do, usually when I'm working with organizations and I'm sitting then with a team and I was, okay, we are working now in a scaled environment. And we have the higher level organizational priorities that are being decided by those three key people. Let's say the product manager, some stakeholders, an architect, they decide all of the decisions. Okay. That was great. How fast do you want to make a decision? Do you want to take a quarter? Do you want to take a week? Do you want to decide on a daily basis? Okay, let's agree on that. What fast looks like to you? And I ask them, I really ask them, if I'm a team member, I also ask, how fast do you want me to make a decision in the team? If we're talking about sprints and we need to make decisions every 2 weeks, okay, what will enable me as a team member to make decision every 2 weeks? I really challenge my leadership on that. What will enable me as a team member to make decisions every 2 weeks? What do I need to know? What do I need to be able to communicate outwards? And I sit with a team and I write it down. As a team, we need to know this information. We need to know your priorities. We need to know the business landscape. We need to know your sales plans. We need to know what you have committed to clients. We need to know your deadlines. We need to know your objectives and key results. Like anything that we need to know in order to make that decision. I need to know the entire architecture of those 3 other teams. Great. Okay, that's all the things I need to know. I make sure that I know them. Now, what is it that I need to be able to decide on? As a team, I have this code base that I'm responsible for. Okay. When I want to make a change in the code, I also need to influence that other team code base. Okay, good. Now we can talk about that. So, when I'm changing my code base that is owned by me, who needs to be involved? And it's not a typical RACI metrics. Because in RACI metrics, we are talking about who is responsible, who is accountable, who is consulting, who is informed. That's something that you can always do. It's a typical project management tool. What I'm talking about here is the level of delegation for the decision making. And this is something that might be still dependent on the team. Because the team might say, we are very senior, we have a lot of experience. We can make decisions on our code base and communicate with other teams without having supervision. And then you say, okay, communication on changes to the code base, done by this team, delegated completely to the team to decide. And only in specific cases, I want the architect to be informed on that. Great, let's agree on that. That will make the decision immediate. Now, maybe I'm in a different situation. My team is super junior. They never did something like that before. It's a completely new code base. They never saw it before. We are externals. We go into a completely new organization. We don't even know what we're touching because it's the first time we see it. It's new. Do I want to make decisions about other people's code base? I don't know, don't blame me if something is broken afterwards, right? So then, no. Then I will say, you know what? Don't delegate that to me right now. Let's discuss. I want you to, for example, advise me on what needs to be done. I will go, I will look, I will decide, and then I bring it back to you for final approval in the first 2 weeks, 1 month, 3 months, as you agree. And incrementally, we are shifting from one delegation level to another. So this thing that you see here, this is not a one-time thing. And that's the difference. In RACI metrics, you usually have like a one-time thing. You do it once, and you're over. Here, you grow with the responsibility, with the trust that you're able to give people. So you start with, how much trust do you feel comfortable that I give you, team? And then you go slowly and give more trust. In extreme situation, I don't have time for that. I just give you all the trust and prove me wrong. I automatically assume I can trust you 100%. If I cannot trust you, I can take away the trust. In organizational situation, you might be like, yeah, I don't really trust you right away, so we need to build it slowly. But then we're paying the price of being too slow. So you can decide for yourself how big is your crisis. If your crisis is big, give the trust right away and ask for forgiveness, not permission. If your crisis is very small and it's not that urgent and you say, we can wait 7 years for this culture to be mature. Then, okay, then go step by step. I mean, most of us didn't meet our partner and got married after 1 week. Right? So it's also the same in organizations. Usually, we don't trust each other right away. We want to, but we don't. So it's okay to build it up. So you decide how big is your crisis. But the most important thing, be intentional, right? We talked about it. We talked about we want to be intentional what we need to know to make those decisions, and then be intentional about how we're making those decisions and allow for the dynamic conversation on how we're going to be better in it with time. And last but not least, and probably the most important, how can we support? I think it's, when we talk about the war situation, I actually had a very interesting conversations with people when it came to that, because many people were reaching out to me in October and say like, "How? I saw what's going on in Israel. How are you being affected?" Not affected at all. Of course I'm affected. And then they were asking me, "So what's going on there? Because we saw what the IDF is doing." Okay, not very empathetic, you know? Like, ask me if I want to talk about it. Ask me what I need. If I'm being affected, what support do I need? Ask me if I'm comfortable talking logically about it right now, because maybe I'm full of emotions. Whether I agree or disagree, there were so many things that were going on that were not in my control. So every person is different. Some people will be like, yeah, let's go into a political debate of what is going on. Others will be like, I just need a hug. Or I actually had friends from Ukraine when the war started that were mad at me if I reached out, because they said everyone was reaching out. We wanted to keep our phone open to other people that were actually telling us what's going on to call us. We didn't want you to call me. I don't need you to ask me how I'm doing. You know I'm not doing well. So just don't reach out. And that's the thing that was very individualistic. I published on my LinkedIn how I want people to reach out to me. What type of questions I would be happy with. I gave a guide. When someone asked me, "Are you okay?" I answered them what I needed. But that's because I know how to ask for what I need. When we are in a crisis situation, many people don't know how to ask for what they need. And we need to be okay with that they will not be able to tell us what they need. They're going to be full of anxiety, of fear, of grief, sense of loss. And yes, when we're doing an organizational transformation, people are going to be afraid. People are going to have a sense of loss. You took away my job. You changed it. I used to be an expert. I used to be really good in what I do. And now you ask me to do something completely different or delegate my decision-making power to someone that is new, that doesn't have this experience, or is junior, doesn't have the experience, or you want me to suddenly understand things I would never did before. Why do I need to now do testing if I'm an engineer? I'm a front-end engineer. Why do I need to write back-end? A lot of different questions and fears and frustrations and concerns. A lot of them are valid. Okay? So it's very important to recognize that those exist and accept it and not judge it. And just not judge it, right? It is what it is. We feel how we feel. Our feelings don't have to be rational. And change can be always understood as unfair and disruptive, whether you're trying to make it very, very small, like, hey, let's use a board and put our task on a board as a team. It can be perceived, that's a small, tiny change. But I did have a team that I was working with that when I told them, hey, let's have a board and write down what we're doing, they're like, what's a bar? You want us to use a board? You don't trust us? We are all senior experts. You want us to write down our topics on a board? You don't trust us. And they didn't want to use the board. They saw it as a very unfair thing of me to even ask. So we cannot judge what is going to be the reaction of someone. And we cannot assume that because something is not affecting us or is not difficult for us, or because we are able to ask for what we need, that everyone else is going to be able to do that. And that's why when the situation started, we understood that we needed to have diverse channels for how we are supporting people. And yeah, I know that you cannot read it because it's in Hebrew. But I will tell you what it is. So we had different type of support. We understood that people need different things. And what does it mean? Some people were affected because they had their family hostages, right? And they wanted to feel seen, acknowledged, heard. Don't forget that they're there. Don't forget that they're actually still there. And that's why we created demonstrations. And we actually have demonstrations in Berlin, in Frankfurt, in Munich, in almost every city in Germany, Dresden, Cologne, Düsseldorf. And we also had demonstrations in other countries. So this one is I think it was in Basel, but it was in Switzerland. And we do had a demonstration in Zurich and Geneva and in many different cities in Switzerland and also in London and in the US and so on. And the other thing is some people just want to feel solidarity because there was this confusion of many people that because Israel has a lot of Jewish people and is considered a Jewish country to some, then everyone is Jewish in Israel, and everyone that is Jewish must be Israeli as well. Which, you know, as an engineers, we know that it's not a one-to-one relationship, right? It's like you have a many-to-many. You can be Israeli and not being Jewish, and you can be Jewish and not being Israeli. Yeah? So sometimes we just needed solidarity for Jewish people that were like, we just want to be Jewish, and suddenly everyone hates us again. What's happening? And other type of support we were offering was just events to come together and celebrate just being alive, because we can get very immersed in our emotions. And other support systems that we created were about individual therapy or support, hotlines. We had many people that didn't want to stay with us. And we needed to create those different channels so people know where to call, where to go, how to feel safe again, how to feel alive again. And when we talk about organizations, we want to bring our whole self to work. That's a common thing that we say, but do we really mean it? Still in Germany, many of us don't feel comfortable to speak about our feelings at work. We're like, oh, that's something I live at home. I remember when I had my first lunch with some colleagues and they didn't even want to talk about the weekend because it was a private topic. It's not that bad anymore, I must say, but it still can happen. In some organizations, people feel uncomfortable to speak about things like that. Or I will not tell you about my private life because this is not something you're supposed to bring to work. And that's why we want to make sure that people have different channels at work to be able to raise concerns. And one of them is how can we provide a contact person so people know where to go when they need coaching, support, therapy. Because you will not, you cannot even imagine how hard it is for some people to change a role in the organization if they thought that they are experts and now their entire job is different. It can be very, very difficult. Or changing the entire team structure, it's also very difficult. And we want to allow that type of a mental health support, especially now with pandemic, with war. You don't know what your colleagues are going through. You don't know what's happening at home, you don't know what's happening at work, and a lot of things from home will come to work, and a lot of things from work will come home. So have a space for that. And we want to learn ourselves how to be more coach-like. So we want to be able to know how to ask very good questions and powerful questions. We want to ask open questions. We want to allow people to provide us with information. We want to be curious. We want to be able to create a space for people to feel safe And I actually did quite a lot of work on that, so that's for a different conversation. But that's what we learned from the war as well, that coaching skills are useful in any type of environment, but especially when you're dealing with a lot of change, you don't have the answers, so at least have the questions. And nominate a safe person. So it doesn't have to be an HR, so doesn't have to be people operations. It needs to be someone that is comfortable to listen. And I usually train those people on how to listen and how to ask questions and just be there as an anonymous person, a safe person to be in the organization. And that allows for people to go there in an informal way. It doesn't feel like going to your manager because that might feel unsafe to many, and also not going to HR, which can feel unsafe to others, right? So that will be just a general, objective, safe person to go to. And those are just some key techniques that you can use. So if you start with yourself, number 2, learn how to ask questions. That will already change quite a lot of your day-to-day work. So I do want to leave some space for questions, so I will just have like this quick summary of, we talked about those 3 main things. What do we need to know and how can we create that information transparency? We talked about how do we decide, so we want to delegate decision-making to the people that are able to make those decisions and need to make those decisions. And we want to be able to offer support. And I would say that at the end of the day, the most important thing is being intentional, because we are going to think globally and act locally. So if we are intentional, then we know what's important globally, and we can create the space to do that locally. And listen to every voice, because people matter. They are the most important part of our work. And if we were to think about the extremes, extreme is just exactly what we're going through, just in high-level speed. So we are, because we're dealing with safety, we're dealing with learning new things. That's why I started with my university. Right? We, in our organization, to be successful, need a safe space to learn. And that means that we are constantly dealing with change, and we're constantly dealing with how to learn effectively. So all of you are dealing with crises every day. Some crises are small, some crises are big. Thank you.